So the Packers did exactly what you would have hoped they would do against a 49ers team that was without some of their best players. Brock Purdy injured, not playing. Nick Bosa injured, not playing. Trent Williams injured, not playing. And when I saw that news the other day that Brock Purdy would be out, Nick Bosa would be out, it really felt like a game the Packers needed to win, because when you have a backup quarterback in there in Brandon Allen, and you have a team that is at the caliber of the Green Bay Packers sitting at 7-3 entering this game, you really needed to go in and win that game at Lambeau Field, and that is exactly what the Packers did, beating the Niners 38-10. And all in all, it was a pretty dominant performance from the offense, from the defense, and it's sort of what you would hope would happen when you're facing a team that is really banged up, missing a lot of players. The 49ers are definitely not the same team they've been in years past. Even when they are healthy, they haven't been quite as dominant as they have been in years past. And so without Brock Purdy, without Nick Bosa, they were definitely not at their best, but the Packers did what they needed to do. And I think that the biggest reason the Packers won this game, Josh Jacobs had an insanely great game. 26 carries for 106 yards, 3 touchdowns. They were putting up a ton of different stats about Josh Jacobs' day. He's like the first Packer to run for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns since 1999. He broke the most tackles of any player in any game this entire season. At one point in the game, he was at 14. And he had most of those yards in the first half. He had 19 carries in the first half. And so the Packers were really feeding Josh Jacobs. They finished the day running for 169 yards, 4 yards a carry. And Jordan Love had a somewhat good day. He did take some big risks in that game. There was one interception dropped, another 1 or 2 he threw into like double coverage with Christian Watson. And clearly we know Jordan Love is not afraid to put the ball wherever he wants, whenever he wants. And sometimes it doesn't end like you had hoped, but luckily the one pick was dropped. It could have easily been an interception. But Jordan Love today didn't really have to do too much. 13 of 23, 163 yards, 0 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 107.7 passer rating, and the Packers running game was what really was the foundation today for this Packers team against the Niners. And from the start, the Packers were up 10-0 in the first quarter. They in the first half up 17-7. Then in the fourth quarter, they score 14 to the Niners scoring 0. And when you had, Lucas Van Ness forcing a fumble on a sack, great for him because he hasn't really done too much this season. It was good to see him be productive there. And then Christian McCaffrey then fumbling the ball later on. The Packers had forced 3 turnovers on defense in this game. And so one thing we've seen from the Packers defense all year is the ability to force turnovers, and it continues to happen. And that's, one big reason the Packers were able to dominate like they did in this one. And Jordan Love spread the ball around a lot. The most receptions for one player was Romeo Doubs with 3, just same as Jaden Reed had 3 receptions. And it feels like those Romeo Doubs receptions may have all been on one of those first drives, because it was either the second or third drive, I believe, where there were multiple third down conversions. Romeo Doubs came in and made some nice plays. He did leave later in the game with a concussion. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from this game is one area the Packers had been very poor this year. One of the biggest weaknesses of this team had been their red zone offense. They entered around 27th in the league coming into this game. And today they were perfect in the red zone. They finished 5 for 5 in the red zone. So all 5 red zone drives ended in touchdowns. And so that's nice to see the Packers being able to actually capitalize in the red zone, because this team has been a top 10 scoring offense pretty much the entire season. And that's with the terrible red zone numbers. They've gotten to the red zone at, one of the highest rates in the NFL. They just hadn't been able to really convert at a high level. And so to see them do it today, that's a kind of improvement you want to see from this Packers team to when it comes playoff time, when you're playing against these top tier teams. It's really going to come down to, how you perform in the red zone. Can you really, can you convert when you need to? And the Packers did it multiple times today. So all in all, a very, very good day for the Packers offense. And as I said, when you have a team that's this banged up, you really needed to see something like this. I feel like you would only leave this game feeling satisfied if the Packers, had a pretty dominant win against this beat-up Niners team. If it had been a close game, 24-17, you'd go, man, like this Packers team should have beat them by way more. And so to see them win 38-10, awesome. And now if we look to the defensive side of the ball, with Brock Purdy out, I was wondering how Brandon Allen would look. He didn't really play great in his time earlier in his career. He goes 17 of 29, 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And on that 1 interception, it did go, I think it was Deebo Samuel. I think it went through his hands on that one. And Xavier McKinney had his 7th interception of the season. So he continues to be productive, continues to get those interceptions. And then Brandon Allen finished with a 76.7 passer rating. And Brandon Allen, honestly, he looked a little better than I expected. To start off the game, he looked pretty shaky. Things weren't really going well. Later in the game, he did make some nice plays. They only got to the red zone, I think, 1 time. Let me pull up the stats just to double check that. Yeah, they went to the red zone only once the entire game. They were 1 for 1. That's the 1 touchdown they scored in the second quarter. And I think the biggest problem for the Niners is their running game. They couldn't do anything running the ball. Christian McCaffrey had 11 carries for only 31 yards, 2.8 yards a carry. The Niners finished with a total of 16 carries for 44 yards at 2.8 yards a carry. So a very dominant day from the Packers defensive line, from the Packers linebackers, the Packers run defense overall. And I think Quay Walker had a really good day. Outside of dropping that interception, he made a good play to get in the position. He then dropped it. You got to make that play. But I honestly think Quay played great. He had a ton of nice tackles in the backfield. I thought he was playing some good football at the middle linebacker position. And when you hold a team to 2.8 yards a carry, I mean, you're pretty dominant when it comes to the line of scrimmage. So great day for the defense overall. The leading receiver for the Niners was George Kittle, 6 receptions for a total of 82 yards. And when you're the Niners and you turn the ball over 3 times and the Packers turn the ball over 0 times, it's hard to win any kind of game like that. And you could just see the Niners were obviously missing Brock Purdy, and it just wasn't a very pretty day, really, in any way for the 49ers team. And so now the Packers are sitting at 8-3. You can't really, it's hard to take a ton away from this game just because of how beat up the 49ers have been. And even when healthy, they came into this game sitting at 5-5. And so, if this was a fully healthy Niners team from like last year and you win 38-10, you leave thinking, okay, like we can go head to head with any team. And I still think we can, based on the play we've seen the Packers, the level the Packers have played at this season. But it's hard to take a lot away from this one just because so many injuries. The Niners didn't play great football, and so it's a game you had to have. The Packers had played really well in this one, and now they're sitting at 8-3 with the Dolphins game coming up on Thursday on Thanksgiving. Should be a fun one. It's always fun to watch the Packers play on Thanksgiving, and hopefully the Packers win that one. They'll be sitting at 9-3. And the rest of the NFC North, Vikings won once again. I think they're 9-2 now, or 8-2, 8-2 or 9-2. And the Lions are still at the top of the NFC North, only with 1 loss. So it's going to come down to the wire for the NFC North. The Bears lost once again. So the NFC North is really stacked right now. So the Packers are going to, if they really want to win the NFC North, it's going to be tough with how good the Lions are playing and with how good the Minnesota Vikings are playing. But I still think the Packers are overall in a very good spot. And if the Packers can continue to convert in the red zone like they did today and force the turnovers they did today, I think this Packers team really can compete with the best teams in the NFL, especially if Jordan Love, can make great decisions. But those are my thoughts. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.